Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell. Democrats face two razor-thin runoffs in Georgia with the balance of power in the Senate at stake. Both Senate races were pushed to a runoff after the November 3rd election and now face a test of Democratic enthusiasm and endurance. And joining us now is one of the candidates fighting in these races, Democrat Jon Ossoff. Jon, welcome back to the show. Senator Perdue backed out of a debate after you alleged that he was using his position to line his own pockets. What kind of message do you think that sends to voters?
Hey, Jill, good morning, and thank you for having me. And yes, Senator Perdue is refusing to debate me before this crucial January 5th runoff election. We debated in Savannah a few weeks back, and I asked him some very straightforward questions. I asked him why he had voted 4 times to repeal protections for pre-existing conditions. I asked him why he had told us COVID-19 was no deadlier than the flu when he knew better because he was getting private briefings in Washington. And while he was downplaying the crisis, he was buying up shares in manufacturers of vaccines and medical equipment. He didn't like being asked those questions. I don't think he's accustomed to being asked tough questions. And he's now refusing to debate me because he feels entitled to the Senate seat. He feels like he should be able to cruise to re-election without answering questions in a public forum, even at a moment of national crisis such as this one, when people need to hear from candidates for office how we're going to empower medical experts to fight the virus, what kind of economic relief we intend to rush to families and businesses who are on the brink right now.
How do you get, though, more votes than the Republicans when the raw vote totals favored Republicans the first time around?
This is all about turnout. This is all about energy and enthusiasm and getting out the vote. For the next 7 weeks, we are running, and I'm running alongside Reverend Warnock and working with Stacey Abrams here in Georgia, the most aggressive, ambitious voter registration and get out the vote effort in American history. That's what we're doing here in Georgia. And it's all about communicating the stakes, that our country's ability to fight this virus, to invest in economic recovery, to invest in infrastructure and clean energy, to expand civil rights and voting rights, all of that depends upon winning these 2 races. And we got to get folks back out to the polls by making sure they know what's at stake and when, where, and how to vote, with early voting beginning in just a few weeks on December 14th.
So in the middle of this pandemic right now, when regular campaigning is hard, how do you get people enthusiastic about this? Typically, fewer voters come out for these types of special elections. So what is your strategy right now?
Well, this moment of national crisis, this moment of national tragedy, we just crossed 250,000 American lives lost to COVID-19. Folks are about to spend Thanksgiving without their extended families. Lines at food banks stretching for miles. That has to be motivation for us to demand better leadership. This mess is so much worse than it needed to be because we've had political leaders in the White House and the president's enablers in Congress who have silenced and suppressed medical experts, who haven't passed any new financial relief for regular people since the summertime. It's unacceptable. And with the stakes this high, the death toll rising, so many families on the brink of foreclosure and eviction, so many businesses on the brink of insolvency, we got to make sure people know that our ability to get out of this crisis depends upon winning these 2 Senate races in Georgia.
Georgia hasn't elected a Democratic senator since 1996. I just had to double check that. And now potentially poised to elect 2. Do you think Georgia is becoming a blue state?
Yeah, Jill, when I launched this campaign a little over a year ago, I was telling everybody that Georgia is the most competitive state in the country. And there were a lot of folks who doubted that. But the state has become younger and more diverse literally by the day for the last decade. And the work that's been done to register voters and to mobilize communities and young voters and to empower Black voters to participate, to protect ballot access, a lot of this work led by Stacey Abrams has been transformative. And it's really the extraordinary turnout of Black voters in November that delivered this state for Joe Biden. The Black community here has also been hit the hardest by COVID-19. and by this economic crisis. And so that is why we have to get folks back out to the polls by making sure people know that there are two crucial Senate elections upcoming, that our ability to fight this virus depends upon winning them, and that our ability to enact that broader agenda, which is in the vital public interest, lowering healthcare costs, making healthcare affordable for all families, building new rural hospitals here in Georgia, where 9 have closed in the last decade, expanding Medicaid, getting more resources for maternal health. You know, we've got one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the country in Georgia. My wife works as an OBGYN here and sees the consequences of our state's systematic neglect of women's health every day at the hospital. There's so much work we have to do to lift up the lives and well-being and health and economic opportunity for ordinary people. And we're just doing our best to make sure people know these elections are coming up and what's on the line.
There's some claims that Georgia's Secretary of State was pressured by Senator Lindsey Graham this week. And you said that Senator Perdue needs to come out in public and explain whether he asked Senator Graham to take that action, which could be a federal crime. Can you just walk us through this a little bit? And do you have any insight into what may have happened?
Yeah, well, two things are going on at once. First of all, both of Georgia's incumbent Republican senators, my opponent David Perdue and appointed Senator Kelly Loeffler, have been viciously attacking Georgia's Republican Secretary of State because Perdue's in a runoff and Biden won here. And I guess they're upset that the election authorities allowed so many Democrats to vote. I guess they wanted voter suppression to do their work for us, because remember, Perdue feels so entitled to a cakewalk, he's not even debating. So they've been attacking Georgia's Secretary of State, Republican Secretary of State, in public. And then we learned that Senator Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, and I don't know what business he thinks he has interfering in elections here in Georgia, was asking Georgia's Secretary of State if he could discard legal ballots in counties that Biden won. And it was Georgia's Republican Secretary of State who made this public. So what David Perdue needs to answer for is, did he have any discussions with Senator Graham of South Carolina to try to put that kind of pressure on Georgia's election authorities? Because it's totally improper.
Really quickly as well, Andrew Yang moved down to Georgia to help with these runoff elections. Have you been in contact with him at all?
You know, I spoke with Andrew about 4 weeks ago and appreciated his well wishes in the general election here. And I appreciate what he has brought to the table in terms of his advocacy for innovative ideas and STEM investment and the sort of fresh air that he brought to the Democratic primary. And Andrew's a good guy.
All right. Jon Ossoff, Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate in Georgia. Really great to have you on. Appreciate your time.